Two friends, Mark and David, known for their thrill-seeking nature, decided to explore the infamous Willow Creek Asylum. Abandoned for over a century, its gruesome history of medical experiments and alleged hauntings made it a prime target for ghost hunters and daredevils.
You know, David, I see this as a chance to debunk all those myths. I mean, how spooky can it really be?
Well, Mark, I've always believed in the paranormal, and I can't shake off this unsettling pull towards the asylum's sinister reputation.
The building stood on a hill overlooking the town. It was a Gothic structure, all dark stone and broken windows. A full moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow on the overgrown grounds. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they stepped out of the car, the cool night air thick with anticipation and trepidation. This was their chance to prove or disprove the legends. This was where the real thrill began. A heavy iron gate, rusted and creaking, guarded the main entrance. Beyond it lay a pathway swallowed by weeds and shrouded in an unnatural stillness. The air grew heavy, filled with the smell of decay and dust. The silence was broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant hooting of an owl. As they stepped inside, the temperature dropped, sending a shiver down their spines.
This place is a real grim spectacle. Look at the paint peeling from the walls, revealing the cold, damp stone beneath.
Yeah, the air feels stagnant and heavy. It's like the whispers of unseen presences are all around us.
They walked down a long, dark corridor, their footsteps echoing through the emptiness. Each step deeper into the asylum seemed to amplify the oppressive atmosphere. There was a feeling of being watched, of being followed. The deeper they ventured, the more pronounced the paranormal activities became. Cold spots, devoid of any logical explanation, sent chills across their skin. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, hushed voices speaking of unspeakable horrors. Shadows danced at the edge of their flashlight beams, taking on grotesque and menacing shapes.
I'm trying to rationalize these events, but I can't shake off this growing unease.
In the asylum's main hall, where sunlight struggled to penetrate the grime-covered windows, they encountered the first truly unsettling phenomenon. A medical trolley, laden with rusty surgical instruments, stood in the center of the room. As they watched, it moved, just slightly, as if nudged by an invisible hand. They were no longer just visitors in this forsaken place. They were trespassers in a realm where the living were not welcome. Unbeknownst to Mark and David, Willow Creek Asylum harbored a dark and tragic past. It was a place where the mentally ill were subjected to barbaric treatments, their cries for help silenced within its walls. The spirits of these tortured souls, forever bound to the site of their suffering, now roamed the decaying halls, their anguish palpable in the very air.
Mark, look at this. Rusted chains and leather straps stained with what looks like blood. This room must have been used for hydrotherapy.
A chill runs down my spine just imagining the horrors that unfolded within these walls.
The asylum was not just haunted. It was a repository of suffering, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin. As they descended deeper into the asylum's bowels, the supernatural events grew more intense and personal. A feeling of dread washed over them, a primal instinct screaming at them to turn back. But curiosity, like a siren's call, drew them further into the darkness.
We found ourselves standing in front of a heavy metal door, padlocked and bolted. The air around us grew colder and the feeling of being watched intensified.
They heard it then, a scratching sound coming from the other side of the door. It was faint at first, but grew steadily louder, more insistent. It was the sound of fingernails scraping against metal, desperate and filled with a rage that sent shivers down their spines.
Mark and David exchanged a worried look. Neither of them dared to speak, afraid of what might be listening on the other side.
Panic began to set in as they stumbled upon a room unlike any other. The air in this room felt different, charged with an energy that made the hairs on their arms stand on end. It was colder too, as if a window had been opened to the Arctic.
In the center of the room, illuminated by an ethereal glow, lay a Ouija board. It seemed to pulse with an energy of its own, beckoning us closer.
As they cautiously approached, the planchette began to move. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, it darted across the board, spelling out a chilling message. Join us. Fear turned their blood to ice.
The planchette spelled out another word, play. We were no longer in control, our destinies seemingly dictated by an unseen force.
The room seemed to warp around them as the Ouija board continued its sinister game. The planchette moved faster, spelling out questions in a frantic, desperate plea. Where are they? The room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with anticipation. It was as if the spirits were eager, desperate even, to communicate.
Mark and David felt a growing sense of unease, a feeling that they were caught in something far bigger, far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined.
Who are they? David finally whispered, his voice trembling.
The planchette spun wildly, a whirlwind of energy, before settling on a single, terrifying word: victims. They were trapped in a nightmare, forced to confront the tormented souls that haunted Willow Creek. The asylum was no longer just a building. It was a conduit, a gateway to a realm of unimaginable suffering. Terror choked their throats as the room plunged into an unnatural darkness. Their flashlights flickered and died, plunging them into absolute blackness.
What the hell is happening? I can't see anything.
A cold wind whipped around them, carrying with it the stench of decay and the sound of distant screams. It was as if the asylum itself was reacting to their presence, angered by their intrusion. They were no longer in control. The entity within the asylum had taken over.
John, do you feel that? It's like something's here with us.
Then a voice, raspy and filled with rage, echoed through the room.
You will join us.
The words dripped with malice. They could feel the icy breath of the unseen entity on their skin, smell the decay that clung to its form. They were at the mercy of something ancient and malevolent, something that had been waiting for them.
We need to get out of here now.
Panic surged through them as they fumbled for the door, their hands scrabbling against cold, unyielding stone. The door, which had been slightly ajar moments before, was now slammed shut, seemingly bolted from the outside. They were trapped, their escape route cut off by an unseen force.
It's locked! We're trapped!
The temperature plummeted, and frost began to form on the walls. They were no longer just witnesses to the horrors of Willow Creek. They were participants. They heard the laughter then, cold, cruel, and echoing all around them. It was the laughter of the asylum's victims, their tormentors, their jailers. The laughter seemed to seep into their bones, chilling them to the core. They were prisoners in this house of horrors, their fear feeding the entity that held them captive.
We have to find another way out. We can't stay here.
Driven by adrenaline and pure terror, they managed to escape the room, their flight fueled by primal instinct. They ran through the asylum's corridors, the laughter of the spirits echoing behind them. They could hear the heavy footsteps of their pursuers, feel their icy breath on their necks. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every corner a potential ambush.
Keep running, don't look back.
They finally burst out of the asylum and into the cool night air, their lungs burning, their bodies trembling. They didn't dare to slow down, not until they were far away from that cursed place. As they stumbled towards their car, they could see the silhouette of the asylum against the moonlit sky, its dark windows watching them like malevolent eyes.
We made it, but what the hell was that?
They never returned to Willow Creek Asylum. The experience left an indelible mark on their psyches, a scar that time could not heal. The whispers, the shadows, the laughter, it all remained, a constant reminder of the night they came face to face with the horrors of Willow Creek. The asylum, with its dark history and malevolent entities, had claimed a part of them, leaving them forever changed.
I can't get those cold hands out of my mind. The nightmares, they just won't stop.
Mark, once a skeptic, became withdrawn and haunted by nightmares. He couldn't shake the feeling of cold hands on his skin, couldn't escape the whispers that followed him everywhere. David, his belief in the paranormal solidified, dedicated his life to understanding the events of that night, forever seeking answers in the shadows of Willow Creek. They had gone seeking thrills, but they found something far more terrifying, a truth that shook them to their core and left them forever bound to the ghosts of Willow Creek Asylum.
We thought we were just exploring an old building. We had no idea what we were getting into.